Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive on Brené Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection. We're going to be getting real deep with this book.
Oh yeah, this is the one where we learn to embrace who we are, right? Not who we think we should be.
Exactly, but we're going even deeper today. Deeper, like those aha moments.
Oh, I love those.
The ones that really make you rethink how you're living your life, you know?
Brown gives us these 10 guideposts to help us get there.
10. To navigate this whole journey toward what she calls wholeheartedness.
Which, let's be honest,
Yeah.
is a pretty big goal.
It is a lot to unpack.
It is.
So
Yeah.
for this deep dive, we're focusing on just a few key themes.
Okay, which ones?
Courage,
Ooh, good one.
self-compassion,
Yes.
resilience, gratitude,
Ooh,
and play.
I love how she brings play into it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like she gives us permission to be our messy selves and still find joy.
It's not about being perfect, it's about being whole.
Exactly. And speaking of showing up authentically, let's dive into courage.
Okay, so Brown makes this really interesting distinction between courage, like the typical idea of courage.
Like heroic acts and stuff.
Right, grand heroic acts.
And then there's what she calls ordinary courage,
Okay.
which is what we need in our everyday lives.
So, not slaying dragons, but
Not slaying dragons.
maybe speaking up in a meeting.
Yes. Or like having a hard conversation.
Exactly. Like with a loved one or a coworker.
It's about finding that courage to be vulnerable,
Ooh, vulnerability.
even when it feels scary.
It does. I always think about that story Brown tells about giving that talk,
Oh my God.
that women's networking lunch.
The one where she was supposed to talk about joy and connection.
And she just bombed.
She totally bombed.
Because she was trying to fit this profound message into this neat little box.
Oh yeah, she wanted to please everybody.
She did.
And it backfired.
It totally backfired.
She ended up silencing her own voice.
And you know what's crazy? That experience haunted her for years.
It's kind of comforting, though, in a weird way, right?
It is.
Like, even Brené Brown messes up.
Even Brené Brown. But it also shows just how deep that fear of vulnerability is.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, think about your own life.
Yeah.
Have you ever held back from sharing something because you were afraid of what people would think?
All the time. That's what's so great about Brown's work, though.
What is it?
She takes these complex ideas
Yeah.
and makes them feel personal and relatable.
Totally. And she doesn't shy away from the hard stuff either.
No, she doesn't.
Like shame.
Oh, yeah.
Like she talks about the importance of vulnerability, but also the fear and shame that come with it.
It's like selective emotional numbing.
Oh, I love that term.
It's like ordering a pizza with just cheese and being surprised when you don't get pepperoni.
You can't have one without the other.
You can't. Brown found that we can't just numb the negative emotions
Yeah.
without also numbing our capacity for joy and love and connection.
It's all connected.
It's all part of being human.
It is.
So to really experience life to the fullest, we have to embrace all of it.
The highs and the lows.
Exactly.
And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness that we would offer a friend
Oh, that's good.
who's going through a hard time.
And so Brown brings in Dr. Kristen Neff's work here.
Yes.
I love Kristen Neff. She defines self-compassion as having 3 core elements.
Elements. I think of them more like ingredients
Okay, I like that. Ingredients.
to bake a cake.
The self-compassion cake.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the first ingredient?
Self-kindness.
Okay, so that's like the flour, the base.
The base. It's about being gentle with ourselves.
Instead of beating ourselves up when we make a mistake.
Because we all make mistakes.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Remember that story Brown tells about misspelling an author's name in an email?
Oh yeah, she could have totally spiraled.
She could have.
But she used it as a chance to practice self-compassion.
Exactly. Which brings us to the second ingredient.
Suka?
Common humanity.
Common humanity?
The eggs that bind everything together.
I love this analogy.
It's about remembering we're not alone in our struggles.
We're all human.
Exactly. Everyone feels insecure.
Everyone makes mistakes.
It's so freeing to remember that.
It really is. Okay, so what's the last ingredient?
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. That's the sugar.
The sugar. It's about observing our thoughts and feelings.
Well, no judgment.
Exactly. Without getting swept away.
It's not about ignoring or suppressing those emotions.
No. It's about creating space.
Okay, so space between our feelings
Yeah.
and ourselves. I like to think of mindfulness as being a detective.
a detective.
Yeah, like at a crime scene.
It's-
You don't jump to conclusions.
You gather evidence.
You observe, you
Yeah.
investigate.
Mindfulness is like being a detective of your own inner world.
Oh, I love that.
It is.
So if self-compassion is the cake,
Yeah.
mindfulness helps us savor it.
Instead of scarfing it down.
Yes. No shame-fueled frenzy here.
Exactly. We're taking our time, enjoying each bite.
That's good. So good. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit here. Let's talk about resilience.
Ooh, resilience.
Brown found this fascinating link between resilience and spirituality.
And the way she defines spirituality is pretty inclusive.
Very inclusive.
It's not just about organized religion.
No, it's more about believing in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, like that sense of connection to something greater.
Yeah, whether it's nature, art, music, or a community of like-minded people.
She found that people who have gone through tough times often find strength in that connection.
Yeah, give them a framework
For
making meaning out of suffering.
yeah, and finding hope even when things are really difficult.
It reminds me of that Viktor Frankl quote.
Oh, which one?
Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life and work.
Oh, that's a good one. It really ties into this idea that it's not just about surviving.
Right.
It's about finding meaning and purpose.
In the midst of challenges, yeah. And Brown herself went through a period of addiction and recovery.
She did.
And she talks about how spirituality helped her healing.
It gave her strength.
Yeah, like a source of strength to navigate those dark times.
And she emphasizes that it's not about denying those difficult emotions.
No.
It's about holding the pain and the hope at the same time.
Okay, so that brings us to another key theme, gratitude.
Gratitude.
Now, Brown distinguishes between happiness and joy.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So happiness is fleeting.
Yeah, tied to our circumstances?
Exactly. And then joy is a deeper, more lasting experience
Okay.
that we cultivate through gratitude.
It's not about pretending everything's perfect.
No.
It's about choosing to focus on the good,
Even in the midst of challenges.
even in the midst of challenges.
Yeah.
But, she challenges this idea of just having an attitude of gratitude.
Oh, yeah. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts.
No.
We have to practice gratitude.
That's it. It's a practice.
Like actively noticing and appreciating the good things in our lives.
Yeah. A warm cup of coffee.
A beautiful sunset.
A meaningful conversation with a friend.
Remember that metaphor she uses?
Which one?
The twinkle lights.
Oh, the twinkle lights.
It's like joy is not this constant floodlight
Yeah, it's more like these little bursts of light.
that we have to be present to notice.
Yeah, like those unexpected moments of beauty or connection.
The things that make life worth living.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like you're walking down a dark street.
And suddenly you see this string of twinkling lights.
It doesn't erase the darkness,
No.
but it brings a sense of warmth and hope.
And those twinkle lights can be found everywhere,
They can.
even when things are hard.
It's about shifting our perspective.
Choosing to focus on what we have rather than what we lack.
I love that.
But she also acknowledges that embracing joy can be scary.
Oh, it can be scary.
Yeah, because it makes us vulnerable.
It does. It makes us think, what if something bad happens?
What if this good feeling doesn't last? It's that fear of loss,
It is.
that scarcity mindset
Yeah.
that keeps us from fully experiencing joy.
We hold back, we protect ourselves.
And we miss out
I miss out.
on those beautiful things that could sustain us during tough times.
That is the trap of scarcity thinking.
It is.
We focus on what we don't have,
Yeah.
on what we might lose.
And forget to appreciate all the abundance that's already present.
That's right.
Okay, so let's talk about something that seems a little out of place in a book about vulnerability and self-compassion.
Oh, what's that?
Play.
I know, right?
But Brown says that play is actually essential
Essential for,
for cultivating wholeheartedness.
okay,
It's about tapping into our creativity,
our sense of wonder?
our inner child.
Oh, I like that.
I'll be honest, I struggle with this one.
Why is that?
In our go-go-go culture,
Yeah.
play can feel almost indulgent.
It can. We're always supposed to be productive.
Right, like striving for something.
Always achieving.
But Brown reminds us that play is not frivolous.
It's not.
It's essential for our well-being.
It is.
And she talks about the work of Dr. Stuart Brown.
Who is that?
He founded the National Institute for Play.
Wow. The National Institute for Play.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
His research shows that play is crucial
Hmm.
for brain development, problem solving,
Oh,
creativity, and even innovation.
I would not have guessed that.
It's about letting go of control.
Yeah, embracing spontaneity.
Being present in the moment.
Without any pressure to achieve.
Remember when we were kids?
Oh, yeah.
And play was just about having fun.
Yeah.
No goals, no expectations.
That's right.
Pure joy.
That's right.
And Brown says we need to reclaim that.
As adults.
As adults. It's not about ditching our responsibilities.
Yeah, no.
It's about incorporating joy and laughter into our lives.
I like that a lot.
Brown and her husband even decided to ditch their achievement dream list.
They did. What did they replace it with?
They decided to focus on activities that bring them joy and meaning.
Wow. That's pretty radical.
It is. But it shows how important it is to prioritize what truly matters.
What truly matters?
And Brown points out that play doesn't have to be this big, expensive thing.
Oh.
No. It can be as simple as listening to music.
Oh, okay.
Dancing in your living room.
Yes.
Spending time in nature.
I love all of those.
It's about finding those things that make you feel alive.
Yeah.
And making them a regular part of your life.
That make you feel alive.
And that can feel revolutionary.
Why is that?
Because we live in a culture that tells us to do more, be more.
Achieve more.
Achieve more.
Yeah.
It never ends.
It's about giving ourselves permission to slow down, to rest, to recharge.
It is.
And Brown argues that this is key to cultivating calm.
Calm.
Yeah. And stillness.
Stillness in our lives.
In our lives.
Which is a big challenge these days.
It is like letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle.
That's a good one. I think we can all relate to that.
Oh, yeah. We're constantly bombarded with information and deadlines.
Demands. It's no wonder we're all so anxious. We wear our busyness like a badge of honor.
We do.
But Brown challenges this idea that we always need to be on...
To be successful.
To be successful, to be worthy.
It's exhausting.
And she says that this culture of anxiety makes it harder to connect with others.
It does.
Yeah, to have empathy.
Okay.
To build meaningful relationships.
That makes sense. Because when we're on edge, we're more likely to react impulsively.
Yeah, to get defensive, to shut down.
Yeah, it's like that fight, flight, or freeze response taking over.
Exactly. So how do we cultivate this calm and stillness?
Well, Brown suggests things like mindfulness.
Mindfulness again.
Yeah, and slowing down, being more intentional.
Being more intentional in our responses to things.
In our responses, yeah. And she even suggests something as simple as counting to 10.
Counting to 10 before reacting.
Before reacting in a stressful situation.
Oh my gosh, that can feel impossible sometimes.
It can. But that's why we practice.
The more we practice, the better we get at it.
Exactly. The more we can break free from that anxiety.
And I think that ties into her idea of cultivating meaningful work.
Meaningful work, okay.
It's about finding work that aligns with our values.
Yeah, our passions, our strengths.
And then having the courage to pursue it.
Even when we have doubts.
Even when we're afraid.
Yeah, and Brown shares this quote from Howard Thurman.
I love this quote.
Do you remember it?
I do.
Tell me.
It's don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Goosebumps.
Right?
Every time.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we all have these unique gifts to share with the world.
And finding meaningful work isn't always easy.
It's not.
It might mean taking risks.
Taking risks.
Yeah, facing rejection.
Oh, yeah.
Stepping outside our comfort zone.
But it's essential.
It is. When we're doing work that lights us up.
Yes.
It spills over into every other area of our lives.
It does. We bring more energy and more joy to our relationships and to ourselves. To ourselves. And Brown talks about cultivating things like laughter, song, and dance.
I know. When I first read that, I was like, wait a minute.
It does seem a little out there.
It does, but it makes sense when you think about it.
It does.
They're all forms of expression that allow us to release stress.
To experience joy.
And to feel a sense of belonging.
To feel a sense of belonging.
Exactly. And she reminds us that these aren't just activities for kids.
Oh, no.
They're essential for adults, too.
Adults, too.
It's about letting go of trying to be cool.
Oh, yeah.
And embracing that childlike sense of playfulness.
I love that. And of the three, she seems really fascinated by dance.
Dance.
Yeah, she even calls it full body vulnerability.
Full body vulnerability, because it requires us to let go of our inhibitions.
To move freely.
To express ourselves without holding back.
Which can be scary.
So scary. We're so worried about how we look.
Yeah.
What other people will think.
Yeah, and we miss out on the joy.
We miss out on the freedom.
We do. Brown says we need to reclaim that joy.
To remember that dance is a natural human expression.
It is.
And to allow ourselves to move and groove.
Even when it feels awkward.
Even when we feel uncomfortable.
It's about embracing the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And finding the connection.
And the release.
The release that comes with it.
That comes with it. Okay, Before we wrap up this deep dive, I
Okay.
want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Oh, what's that?
Shame.
Shame. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's like this underlying current that runs through so much of Brown's work.
It is. She calls it the master emotion.
The master emotion.
Yeah, the one that underlies all those struggles with vulnerability and connection.
And she says that shame thrives in secrecy and silence.
It does.
Which is why she encourages us to talk about it.
To talk about it.
Yeah, to share our stories.
Oh, okay.
To realize that we're not alone.
Because the antidote to shame is connection.
It is.
And she gives us this framework for developing shame resilience.
Shame resilience, okay.
Yeah, it involves recognizing shame, triggers practicing critical awareness, reaching out for connection, and speaking shame.
It's like developing an emotional toolkit.
I like that, an emotional toolkit.
Yeah, for navigating those really difficult feelings.
And reclaiming our sense of worthiness.
Our sense of worthiness. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have courage, self-compassion, resilience, gratitude, play, even touched on shame and boundaries.
It's a lot. So I'm curious, what stands out to you as like the most valuable takeaway from all of this?
That's a good question.
What really resonates?
You know, for me, it's the idea that we are enough.
We are enough.
Just as we
are. Yeah.
With all our imperfections and vulnerabilities.
I love them.
It's so simple, but so powerful.
And Brown says, when we can really embrace that truth,
Yeah.
it opens us up to a more joyful and meaningful life.
A more connected life.
A more connected life.
We become more resilient. We build stronger relationships.
We tap into our creativity.
We find work that lights us up.
Yes. And we start to experience more gratitude and joy.
In those everyday moments.
In those everyday moments, right? And one of the keys to living this way is what she calls belonging.
Belonging.
Which is different than just fitting in.
Oh, yeah, that distinction really struck me.
Me too. It's like fitting in is about changing who you are.
To be accepted.
To be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. But belonging is about being accepted for who you truly are.
Exactly. And she says that true belonging only happens when we present our authentic selves.
Our authentic, imperfect, messy selves.
The whole package.
The whole package.
To the world.
This quote really got me.
Oh, which one?
We belong to ourselves first. Any belonging that's contingent on us changing who we are or pretending to be something we're not is not belonging. It's fitting in.
Powerful stuff.
Powerful stuff.
It reminds us we don't have to earn our worthiness.
We already belong.
We already belong.
And I think that ties into everything we've been talking about today.
It does. Courage, self-compassion, resilience, gratitude play.
It's all part of this journey.
Of embracing our true selves.
And living a more wholehearted life.
And it's not always easy.
No, it's not.
There will be setbacks, doubts, moments when we fall back into old patterns.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the key is to keep practicing.
Keep learning.
Keep moving towards that authentic way of being.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up completely,
Okay.
I want to touch on one more thing.
What's that?
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yes. Not just with others.
But with ourselves, too.
With ourselves. I think so many people struggle with this.
It's so hard to say no.
It can feel selfish.
Mean.
Yeah, to prioritize our own needs.
It can.
But Brown says setting boundaries is actually an act of self-compassion.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
When we don't set boundaries, we get resentful.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
And then we can't show up for anyone.
Exactly. It's like trying to pour from an empty cup.
You can't give what you don't have.
We can't.
So setting boundaries is about filling our own cup.
Filling our own cup.
So that we can then show up for others.
From a place of wholeness.
From a place of wholeness, yes.
Not depletion.
Not depletion.
Well, I think we've officially done a deep dive.
We have. We went deep.
We went deep into the gifts of imperfection.
But there's always more to explore.
There is. So we encourage you to keep reading.
To keep learning.
Keep growing.
And to keep embracing your perfectly imperfect self.
Perfectly imperfect. I love that.
Before you go.
Yes.
We want to leave you with one thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If you could let go of one expectation that's weighing you down, what would it be?
Oh.
And what would you do with that newfound freedom?
That's a good one. Write it down. Think about it.
Talk it over with a friend.
Because letting go of unrealistic expectations
is the first step
to embracing our true selves.
To living a more wholehearted life.
You are enough just as you are.
Just as you are.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive